Day 9 of my 30 days of bibliomancy. Bibliomancy being the ancient tradition of dipping into a spiritual text to see what it tells you. Now, normally I don't dip into spiritual texts, I just dip into any text that happens to be on my bookcase on the assumption that everything contains a potential for spiritual enlightenment, uh, even a train timetable, which I do actually have on my bookshelf. Anyway, today it's actually a spiritual text. I reached out and got the teaching of Buddha. Now, here's the truth. The moment I touched and looked at it, I went, the teaching of Buddha, my temptation was to put the book back on the bookshelf because, you know, teaching of Buddha, what can I tell anyone about the teaching of Buddha? I read something and I'll say, well, I think it means this. And everyone's going to say, it doesn't mean that. It means something else. There's a whole thousands of years of history of interpretation of Buddhist texts. But that misunderstands the nature of our relationship with any cultural artifact. You see, if I wanted to explain to you the meaning of some of the teachings of the Buddha, then I would have to know something about the teachings of Buddhism. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in a position to claim the authority to teach and explain. But if I want to explain to you how something I read reflects and echoes within me, I do not need the expertise of being, an expert in the field. I don't have to be an expert on Buddhism, which I'm not, to explain how reading a certain extract from the teachings of Buddha affects me. And it really goes right to the heart of how we encounter any work of art. If you look at, I don't know, La Gioconda, the Mona Lisa, that famous, famous painting, and you want to explain the painting, well, you'd better be an expert. You better know what all the little images in there represent, the cultural origins of them, what the painter was trying to embody in terms of the background and so on. That's all expertise. And if you want to explain the painting, you got to know that stuff. But if you want to explain what the painting, the work of art does to you, you might well say, I saw the Mona Lisa, La Gioconda, I saw the Mona Lisa, and it reminded me of the smile on my grandma's face the last time I saw her before she died. Smile that seemed to combine the melancholy of knowing she was coming to the end of her life with that impish energy that I had always known and had got her through so many scrapes over the 80 years that she'd survived. And thus, the story that you tell of how the work of art affected you has nothing whatsoever to do with the work of art and everything to do with you. And so, when I picked that off the shelf, my first thought is, I'm not an expert on Buddhism. I can't explain the teaching of Buddha. And then I realized I don't have to. I simply talk about what happens when I dip in. So, let's dip in. The disturbances and defilements of the human mind are aroused by greed as well as by its reactions to the changing circumstances. Well, thoughts which are in their time so radical and now have become absolutely central to how almost all of us see the world, or at least large numbers of us see the world. The disturbances and defilements of the human mind are aroused by greed, as well as by its reactions to the changing circumstances. How we see things and I want more. I want this. I don't want that. What I would consider a greedy desire to distort the universe to suit my passing whims. I want to be rich. I don't want to have to do this. I. Reactions, greed. And in an alternative for me, an acceptance of what is, which is not fatalism, Not going, oh, well, what is, there's nothing we can do about it. An acceptance of what is and an acknowledgement of my ability to make choices about how I respond to what is and to make choices to try to influence what will be. I don't control the universe, but I can influence, I can exert agency. Greed, that desire to have, to possess, to somehow dominate, might drive us towards something. But I think what it's most likely to drive us towards, certainly it's true in my case, when I have been greedy in my life, it's driven me towards intense sadness. The defilements of the mind created by greed and our reactivity. The alternative, and I've written about this in my book, Presence, is to align ourselves joyfully and full of awe with what is, and to know that we can influence what will be. As I say, I know practically nothing about Buddhism, but a single sentence echoes right to the heart of how I see the world. Whatever you're up to today, if you're feeling a little bit lost, like you want some clarity in your life, reach out to me. I guide people who perhaps feel a little bit lost, like they have no agency, like they can't influence the world, like they're somehow not good enough to achieve their dreams, to follow their intuition, to realize their creativity. I guide people towards a place of personal empowerment. If you'd like me to guide you, reach out, my friends, reach out. I'd love to have a chat with you. Take care. Enjoy your Thursday.